Today I'm talking with a visitor to the Faraday Institute, Jake Martin. Hi Jake.
Hello.
He's a PhD student from New Zealand, and we've been talking all about my work, but now it's time for me to ask him a few questions to share with you. So first of all, Jake, why are you in Cambridge? What are you studying?
Right, well, I'm currently in the chemical engineering department, and I've just finished my first year of my PhD, and I'm studying soot formation in the computational modelling group.
Mm-hmm.
So we're currently looking at how we can describe the self-assembly of soot particles in the computer, and the reason we're doing this is because soot is a really important aspect to global warming. So deposited on the ice caps, it increases the amount of sunlight, heat that gets absorbed, and actually contributes to the ice caps melting. And the majority of the ice caps melting is actually due to this soot deposition. And so the idea is if we can figure out how soot forms, we can stop it from forming in engines, and then we can reduce the amount of ice that we lose.
Wow, okay, so this is a chemistry project essentially, but that's looking at something that's having a massive effect on globally and on the entire living world.
Yes, all the way down to the single molecules.
Yeah, wow. And you also have a blog where I've been reading some of the information about some of your different projects. I love that seeing the different things that you have an interest in, all these fantastically geeky projects. And there's an interesting story about the engagement ring you gave to your wife. Can you tell us about that?
Okay, yes, so it was quite geeky, but it was also a lot of fun. It was actually during an art and science collaboration project that we were doing, where we were machining microscopic poetry onto various objects using a very expensive and very powerful laser. And so I managed to get the ring, the proposal, the engagement ring, under the laser, and I machined the proposal on the ring, and the width of a human hair, so 100 microns across. And I was planning to get her into the get Louise, my wife, into the lab and show it to her under the microscope, but it's not the most romantic place for that. So the winery was chosen, and the SEM image was printed out, and we decided that was a better way to do it.
That's great. I'm glad she said yes, because it would have been hard to take that back otherwise.
That's true, yes.
I hadn't thought about that. Well, good. I love that, science and art together. So you are here in Cambridge for your studies, but you've also been coming to things at the Faraday Institute. Can I find out what got you interested in science and faith in the first place?
Well, I was brought up as a Christian in New Zealand, and I also really enjoyed the natural world. I really loved asking questions about the natural world. How do things work? I remember very early on asking my teacher, how does a flame work? Which is kind of the topic of my PhD thesis, and not getting a satisfactory answer. I didn't know where the different colours came from, what was formed in the flame, and I was just puzzled by it. And so that early on, I was asking kind of science questions, and my parents didn't have any kind of background in science. They're in marketing and management, but they encouraged me, and they always took me to the library. So I got a lot of good input, good teaching as well. In New Zealand, there's lots of science education, and I guess for a long time those two were kept quite separate in my life, and until I guess I came to my high school years, and the question of how my faith links with the scientific world kind of came together, and unfortunately it came together in an either-or sort of circumstance, where I could either believe mainstream science or take a particular view of science was coloured by a particular reading of Genesis. So, and I remember in high school debating debating with teachers about Genesis and its literal translation, and doing science at the same time, and it was quite difficult really to maintain rigorous science and thinking about the world and having this view. And so I then went to university, and I found, unfortunately, this combative narrative repeated in a lot of my lectures and in a lot of discussions I had, and I saw the real detriment that had. A lot of people losing their faith, a lot of people getting more cemented in their views as opposed to really discussing the issues and coming to agreements. So I guess the thing that really changed my relationship with that was the people that I was around. I met with some really good theologians. My vicar had taught mathematics at university, and he was very good at explaining things to me. And also I met with Graham Finlay in New Zealand, who's done a lot on human evolution. And I guess it was really through talking to people about the interpretation of Genesis that I really started to reconsider my views and start to think about my current view of theistic evolution. But yeah, it was fairly turbulent, the relationship, I would say.
Yeah, and that's taken you to quite a unique place for most PhD students. So there's this whole other part of your life now, as well as your PhD project. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I guess another aspect of what I'm part of at the moment is setting up an organisation called New Zealand Christians in Science. And the point of this organisation is to bring together scientists in a way that allows them to discuss issues of Christian faith in a safe environment and in a place where they can really wrestle with the issues that are facing them. And they can also access the resources that are needed to bring them to a point where they're comfortable with the conversation. So we're starting this organisation this year, and we're very excited to learn a lot from what has been done in other places. So Christians in Science in the UK has been around for a long time, and integrating in Australia with ISCAST, and in America, the ASA. They're all organisations that support Christians who are professional scientists. And so we're very excited about launching this and working together with a global network of people that are really discussing these issues. And I really hope that when someone who's a similar age as me in high school starts to ask these questions, that they'll be able to have a robust discussion to go to, a place to go, a safe place where they can engage in the dialogue between science and faith, and they can be strengthened in their Christian faith.
Great, that sounds really exciting. And how did you get there? So you've just done the first year of your PhD. You've had this experience of these wrestling with science and faith. How did you come to be involved in such a big project? How did that get off the ground? Where was the idea for that?
So the idea for that was really started by Graham Finlay, who is the project director for New Zealand Christians in Science. He's heading it, and he really wanted to support particularly young Christians in their faith, and he wanted to engage with young people and with scientists in a way that allowed them to express their faith in their scientific context. And so I remember talking with him about the idea and just his enthusiasm for this sort of organisation, and then kind of talking with other people in New Zealand about their excitement as well, and really putting it together was so much fun, because there is so much energy in New Zealand for this discussion, and this is an opportunity to kind of organise it around that. And I think also previously in New Zealand we've had TANZA, so Theology and Natural Sciences in New Zealand, in Aotearoa, which is the Māori name for New Zealand. And so there has been a rich theological dialogue around science and faith for a long time. And so it's kind of trying to move a lot of those resources towards scientists and supporting them. And that's also part of what we're wanting to do.
Great. So you gathered together these people and said, well, let's actually do this thing, and sort of got them together to apply for some funding, and now you're getting on with it.
Yes. So just getting the right people together was what sparked off a lot of the proposal writing and us setting up the organisation as it stands. And it's also there's such a global community that really cares about scientists who are Christians and who really want to help. And I think that in New Zealand often you can feel quite isolated, being probably the furthest distance from most major centres as you can be. But knowing that people from around the world are so excited about this possibility was a real encouragement to the team that was putting through the proposal, and then getting such a good response and a grant which was given to us through the Templeton organisation has been a real excitement, and I think a lot of people were not expecting so much support.
Great. Oh, that's really good to hear. And can we hear a little bit about where things are in New Zealand now in terms of science and faith, and where the goal is to take them, if you like? What's the pipe dream?
Right. Well, I think that's a very good question, and partially because there has only been a small number of people involved in that discussion. Part of the first year of NZCAS is trying to do a stock take, trying to figure out where we are at. Where are scientific views currently at? How are people engaging with their faith and their science? And so the first year is really about getting to know the Christians who are scientists in New Zealand, and starting to understand what they want to learn about and where they want to take their knowledge. New Zealand has had a rich history of engaging in science and faith discussions, but often these efforts have been by different people in different areas, and so bringing it all together will be quite exciting to see where New Zealand is at. And there are differing views within the church, and there are relatively standard views in the media presented of quite a lot of conflict between the two. But there are a lot of Christians that narrative does not hold any weight for and makes zero sense to them. So it's trying to understand how we can communicate where scientists are at. And I think after the first year we'll be in a better position to kind of understand where we're at.
And where's the I mean, obviously that will help you to figure out how you frame the project, but do you have an idea about the end goal, where you'd like to be?
I think the end goal is that when people are thinking about Christianity as a belief system, and about Jesus as a person to follow, that science will not be a barrier, but will encourage them to consider questions of origin, of purpose, of meaning, and for that to not be a barrier for them. And I think that's one of the main focuses of NZCA. So that's where we want to be. We want to be at a point where it is not a barrier for someone's faith.
Yeah, great. Certainly those questions of purpose and meaning are what we're all interested about here. So, and we're also interested in the wonders of the living world. So, going back to your own scientific work, do you see any of those wonders there, or any questions that are raised there?
I'm always enthralled by science. I'm enthralled by the way that God put the world together, and I'm just so thankful for the opportunity to study it. I think that that it's a real honour to be able to understand how the world is put together, but at the same time, there's this kind of imperative to look after it, and understanding more about it means that we can be better stewards. And for me, that's so important: the environment and how we look after the world. But I think, the thing that enthralled me as a child, just a simple candle flame, and I still don't understand it completely. I mean, I know an awful amount about a candle flame, but to the level where I can make a difference, and I can stop the amount of pollution that we are currently emitting. We're not quite there yet, and I think there's a beauty in understanding the flickering flame, but at the same time using that knowledge to better the world.
Great. And there must be. Can you share? Is there anything you can tell us about the beauty you see in your work that we might be able to grasp if we're not chemists?
Well, I'm always enthralled by a flame, a flickering flame. It's such a beautiful creation. So I can step you through a candle flame. Some things you might not know about a candle flame, just a common tea light. So one of the first questions is what's actually burning within a flame, and a lot of people will start off by saying, well, the wick's burning, because we can see that it's going black and the tip of it is going red. And yes, the wick is burning slowly, very, very slowly, but that's not where the flame comes from. The flame actually comes from the wax, which gets sucked up the wick, and then it evaporates, and then it's mixed with oxygen, and that's actually where it burns. Now, if it was to burn completely, it would actually be a blue colour, so that's complete combustion. But if there's not quite enough oxygen, then the molecules fragment and form carbon particles, and this is soot. But soot's black, right? And we see a candle flame as yellow. So where does the yellow colour come from? Well, imagine if you put a hot piece of you put a piece of metal in a fire, it starts to glow red and then yellow. It's the same thing with the soot particles in a flame. Those carbon particles are so hot, thousands of degrees, about 1,300 degrees Celsius, that they are emitting light. And so that carbon is actually glowing, and that's the flame that we're looking at. But the thing that is quite remarkable is the process of the fuel molecules breaking down and then forming soot particles is the crucial step in how soot forms, and that's the step that we know very, very little about. And so my work is trying to work out how the fuel goes from fragmenting and then aggregating back together into these carbon particles, and it is a mystery. And I think if early on my teacher had said to me, here's what we know, but we don't know a lot about it, I think I would have been a lot more excited about it. So I guess the beauty is in what we know, and also in the mystery that we don't know about just a common tea light.
Oh, thanks, Jake. That's yeah, I've certainly learned a couple of things a couple of things there, and yeah, it's lovely to think about those candles we're burning at this time of year, and what's going on there. And so thanks for coming to talk to us today. And it's great to hear about what's happening in New Zealand. All the best for that, and we look forward to hearing what comes out of the project you've got going there. And before we go, I hear you have some favourite molecules. Can you leave us with some favourite molecules?
Oh yes, of course I can. Probably one of my favourite class of molecules is molecules that are made up of the carbon atom. And we're all made up of carbon atoms mixed with nitrogen, oxygen, and hydrogen. But carbon just by itself, you probably know a few types of it. So diamond ring, graphite in a pencil. It's interesting to note that diamond actually is not the most stable form of carbon. It's actually graphite. So diamond is actually transforming into graphite. So at one point I was thinking whether I could give my wife Louise a graphite ring, because if the point of the diamond is like an eternal kind of like symbol of love, then actually graphite's probably more appropriate because it will last longer. But very recently we've found a new class of molecules which integrate kind of curvature into the structure. So if you think of graphite being a whole bunch of sheets of carbon that are arranged kind of like a honeycomb, and they're layered, and you can see why it works as a pencil, because as you brush it over your page, they kind of just wipe off. But if you integrate a pentagon into this hexagonal sheet, you start to integrate curvature, and if you get 12 pentagons within this net, you can think of it kind of like a net that you'd make at school, where you kind of put it all together. You can make a completely closed sphere. So the best example is C60, or Buckminster fullerene, and that is 60 carbon atoms arranged in a soccer ball shape. So if soccer ball has 12 pentagons, and if you put a carbon atom at each vertex where all of the seams come to a point, then you'll get C60. And my favourite thing about this molecule is the most symmetric molecule that we know of.
Oh, really?
So it is a beautiful molecule for its simplicity, and the reason why it is so prevalent is because of its symmetry. It's a very stable molecule, and it's only because of that symmetry. And so I guess it's my favourite molecule just because of it's so symmetrical and beautiful. And for a long time we didn't even know it existed.
Oh. Thank you, Jake. It's great to hear your excitement with your own work.
So I'll leave you with one of my favourite experiments to leave people with. So if you've got a candle at home, you can do it. So you need a candle, and you need to light it with a lighter and let it burn for a little while. And this experiment shows that it's actually the wax vapour that's burning in the candle. So when you blow out the candle, you'll see a trail of white smoke coming up. Now that's the wax vapour that's boiling off from the wick. So what you have to do is you have to blow out the candle, let that vapour trail lift up above the candle, and then you have to get your lighter and try to light the top of that trail of wax. And what you'll see, it might take you a few tries, but you'll be able to get that trail to catch a light, and the flame will fly down the vapour trail and will reignite the candle. That's just a very fun thing that you can try at home.
That's so cool, yeah.
Get you excited about it.
Thanks, Jake. We're all going off to the kitchen now to get a candle.